Hello and welcome to Analog Insights. In today's episode, Greg and I review the Leica R-E, which is a manual focus single lens reflex camera built between 1990 and 1994. The R-E is a reduced version of the Leica R5, and it comes basically with the same features except for the program and shutter speed priority modes. So this particular camera here comes with three different modes: a manual mode, a aperture priority mode with a selective metering, and one with full area metering. And as you can see here in the mode switch, these are available. What is interesting to know and to understand is that back then it was marketed at either amateurs, ambitious amateurs trying to get into the Leica system, and for those it was also sold together with a 28 to 70mm zoom lens as a kit, or it was addressed at professionals looking for a second body for their kit. From today's perspective, the camera is interesting because it gives you access to the fantastic Leica R lenses, a maximum shutter speed of 1/2000th of a second, the two different metering modes, and a convenient aperture priority mode, and most importantly, much more reliable electronics in comparison to the earlier Leica R3 or Leica R4 models. What is also interesting is that when the Leica R5 was introduced to the market in 1987, it kind of missed its market because other manufacturers were already moving in the direction of autofocus single lens reflex cameras, while Leica kind of stuck to the manual focus one here. And this also makes it interesting from today's perspective because it's this refined transition camera that was built kind of as a cheaper alternative, less expensive alternative, and yet it was built to the highest Leica standards and is really a nice camera until today. So if you are just looking for any kind of manual focus camera and don't care about autofocus, especially not early autofocus from the 90s, then this one is really interesting. As always, we took the camera out on a photo walk, shooting some Kodak Ultramax 400 and some ADOX CHS 100 in this particular case, Castell, Rüdenhausen and Wiesenthal. And the on-film lab in Frankfurt was kind enough to develop and scan these for us, and we can't wait to share the results here with you. So let's dive in there. So what about the features, design and build quality? The Leica R-E was only available in black chrome and weighs 631 grams. Its design can be clearly traced to the 1980s and 90s. In my opinion, it comes with really nice ergonomic feel, rounded edges, but overall clean lines and pretty straightforward controls. My personal highlight is the very large and nice shutter speed dial with the very beautiful typography and on it. To my eyes, this is also very clean and straightforward typography. In contrast to that, what I don't like so much, or it's not so much my cup of tea, is the large Leica on the front. It feels a little bit over branded, and at the same time I also feel like these Leica letters here are trying to kind of hide the different lights and receptors in here in that front cover, and yet it's okay. It's a beautiful design, and I think it aged relatively well, and there are certainly cameras from that period of time that didn't age so well as this one. The camera comes with a vertical focal plane metal shutter with speeds ranging from 15 seconds to 1/2000th of a second, plus a bulb mode. In the manual mode, the slowest shutter speed that you can select is 1/2 a second, and in the automatic exposure mode, the shutter speed is chosen steplessly by the electronics, and the LEDs on the right side of the finder indicate the closest shutter speed to the chosen one. The ISO can be set between 12 and 3200, and there's an exposure compensation dial with that ranges between -2 to +2. And the true high eye point viewfinder comes with a diopter correction, also between -+2, and a viewfinder cover to protect the film from light during longer exposures. And the same bright focusing screens that were introduced for the R5 also come into play with the R-E, and they really live up to the infamous Minolta's infamous acute matte screens, so a really, really nice viewfinder. As mentioned, the camera comes with two different metering modes, the selective metering and the full field center weighted metering, and depending on what you prefer for the scene at hand, you can simply choose and switch metering mode. The manual mode only comes with the selective metering, and conveniently there's also an exposure metering memory, so if you want to take a reading of a certain element in your frame and take that and keep it, you can just do that. Furthermore, if you use compatible flash units, the camera supports TDL flash exposure control, and the flash metering then required a second light receptor that is measuring the full field only of the film itself during the exposure, so pretty cool. The self-timer sets off after a 9 seconds delay, and the hinged camera back offers a connection for a data back without a cable. So what about the lenses and accessories? We had discussed the Leica R lens lineup before, so I tried to keep it short and not confuse you with all the peculiarities. In this particular case, the Leica R-E, it is basically compatible with all Leica R lenses with full compatibility to all the 3-cam, R-only and ROM lenses, and only stop-down metering for the 2-cam and 1-cam lenses. This is the only limitation that you need to take into consideration. In our test, we used the 60mm macro for close-ups, the 135mm for a portrait here and there, and a lot of the zoom lenses, the 28mm to 70mm, so the original kit lens, that is fantastic, and also the 80mm to 200mm that is often overlooked. And especially the kit lens, the original, the 28 to 70, in combination with one of the other accessories like a winder, is really fantastic. So speaking of the winder, there was available a motor winder R, a motor drive R, and a fitting hand grip that could be attached to those. And of course, that combination, a zoom lens plus a hand grip and a winder, really makes for a nice and fast kit, obviously. And then of course there were accessories like the data bag that was mentioned, the DB2, an electronic control system RC, and even an external power source such as the MDR. And you can also find all sorts of extension rings for close-ups and similar applications. So the Leica R-E is the kind of camera that basically lets you shoot anything. It can live up to all sorts of potential photographic challenges and applications. It's kind of similar to the Nikon F system, not quite as extensive, but still a really, really nice professional lineup that you can tap into. And yet you can also keep it small and simple and just put on a 35mm Summicron, a classic, and no winder at all and no hand grip, and then you just have a pretty compact, nice single lens reflex camera that definitely delivers in terms of the results. what about the handling and our personal impressions? The Leica R-E looks and feels really nice. The controls are limited to the basics. As mentioned before, the operation is pretty straightforward. It's easy to understand. There are no unnecessary bells and whistles, I would say. And as such, it's also a pretty compact camera depending on the lens that you combine it with, and it's not too heavy. So it does work for me as a street shot combination if this is important to you, but it could also work for more professional applications or with a zoom lens. It kind of radiates that reliability that you would expect from the Leica name. What is interesting here is the made in Germany on the back here, because if you take a closer look at the time, Leica had moved from Wetzlar to Solms, and basically ever since 1988 all the cameras were produced in Solms. But the pre-assembly took place in Portugal in the factory there, so all the pieces and parts came together in Solms, and there was the final assembly, and of course then the made in Germany. And there are some true hardcore collectors who keep pointing that out and who would say, I'm not so sure the quality is the same like earlier models that were completely created in Wetzlar and la la la. So I tend to disagree here. Personally, I feel like Leica made quite an effort of living up to its own quality standards and making sure that the camera lives up to that. Here in the old brochure, you can even see how the cameras were tested when it comes to extreme cold and extreme heat, and taking these cameras through such paces before introducing them and to the market kind of shows that the made in Germany and the Leica name here really lives up to itself. And all this in the face of today's prices of 200 to 300 euro on the used market. So as mentioned in the introduction, this gives you access to the fantastic Leica R lenses at 1/2000th of a second maximum shutter speed, the much better reliability than the R4 and R3, and a camera that can potentially still be repaired even after 30 plus years that it already exists. So it's a fair price in my opinion, and depending on what you are interested in, you don't have to break the bank when it comes to lenses. So you could also just pick and choose and go for one lens here or one zoom lens or so, and then you have a really nice kit that feels reliable, solid, and like a quality, and the images really will be outstanding. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Analog Insights and our review of the Leica R-E, which is a little bit of the odd one out, and it appears to be just a reduced version. And at the same time, if you take a closer look, it's reduced by the kinds of features that you might not necessarily need, at least I don't. So if you are fond of having an aperture priority mode and a manual mode, and that's all you need typically, then this is the camera to go for. It offers more reliability as stated, a great 1/2000th of a second maximum shutter speed, TDL metering, and all sorts of additional small features without being kind of overwhelming in its completeness. So a really nice package that I can highly recommend taking a look, and that is, with a 200 to 300 euro price point, a really great deal. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like it and maybe even share it with your friends. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to our channel. Jules, Greg, and I really appreciate each and every subscriber coming our way. So thanks for watching. I hope to see you soon. Bye.